We got some big deep breaking news. The Steelers released cornerback Arthur Maulet today. What could it mean? Also, Kendrick Green to fullback? Terrible idea? Or actually, not so bad. We'll talk further. Big deep news. So yeah, just about an hour ago, the Steelers released Arthur Maulet. He was primarily a slot corner for us over these last 2 years, and a productive player for the amount of time that he actually got out on the field. Put him in there for run situations. He was a better run defender than in coverage, but wasn't terrible in coverage. He had his moments here or there. I remember the Monday night game where he gave up a couple chunk plays against the Bears. I think that was in 2021, but I think he was way more of a net positive than a net negative for this team. So I'm a little bummed we're losing him because we got to hear about his story on the podcast. I feel like he really did bring that blue-collar Steeler mentality to this team. But at the same time, I can understand why the Steelers may have viewed him as expendable with all of our offseason moves. Not only do you bring in a Chandon Sullivan, who has more experience and I think has a little bit more pedigree at the slot corner position than a Maulet. Also, you bring in a Patrick Peterson, who is a Hall of Famer and has talked about his versatility and being willing to move into the slot. You also drafted Joey Porter Jr. and a Corey Trice. So I could see why not only the Steelers would view the cornerback room as a little bit busy, but also Arthur Maulet himself, because it is being reported that he asked for his release. Like for me, I would have liked to seen Maulet compete because we know what he's got. We know he wouldn't have backed down. But at the same time, I could see how he would be looking at the room and being like, man, I don't know if the Steelers are really valuing me right now or have a place for me with all these draft picks and offseason moves that they've made. But ultimately, you got to give Maulet a shout out for these last 2 years with the Steelers. Once a Steeler, always a Steeler. Now, though, I was thinking before I knew that Maulet asked for his release, I was curious about whether or not this could be a link to another move the Steelers make, whether it's this week or in upcoming weeks. Because the cornerback room is kind of loaded, you lose Maulet, you save some cap space. Does that mean you try to bring in another player to a position that maybe you could use, not necessarily an upgrade, but additional depth, like an inside linebacker? Or I don't think it would kill us still to bring in an additional edge rusher. I know we drafted Nick Herbig. You still got Quincy Roche. I know we've been getting linked to Cal Van Noy. There's some other players out there. An inside linebacker, I wouldn't mind a Reuben Foster or Quan Alexander. So we'll see if this move means anything. I thought it would before I knew that Arthur Maulet asked for his release, because if he didn't ask for it, maybe the Steelers would just be staying put. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's going to be a move in the works over the next week or two? And I think actually I might make a video on what free agents are left out there, like maybe give my top 5 or 10 rankings for the Steelers to potentially sign. And then one last thing before I bounce out of here. Former Steeler Vince Williams had an idea on Twitter, and that is to move Kendrick Green to fullback. Well, I could see low-key why this would make sense, because I don't think offensive line is really the place for Green. We saw his work at center in 2021. Not good. We saw his work at guard last year in the preseason. Also, not good. So how about fullback? Why the hell not? We just brought in Monty Pottebaum. Maybe Green could compete for him. I think that would be a summer showcase.
Get your popcorn ready.
I don't think you got much to lose. My only stipulation with this, though, is you only put Green out there with the third stringers early on. I don't think we can afford to have him at fullback with either Mitch or Kenny, because I don't want him to get them hurt. So if things start going well with the third stringers and Tanner Morgan is remaining upright, he's given lanes for, who's our third running back right now? I guess it would be McFarland. He's opening up lanes for McFarland. Maybe, just maybe you bump him up to Mitch. And like in all seriousness, going back to what I said at the beginning of this segment, I don't know where he fits on this offensive line, because right now he'd probably be like the 5th or 6th stringer at the guard spot. You got Isaac Seumalo, James Daniels is the starter. And then you have Kevin Dotson and Nate Herbig as the backups right there. Then you're talking about Kendrick Green competing with the likes of Spencer Anderson, who you just drafted in the 7th round, and a Trevor Downing, who you brought in as an undrafted free agent. And both of those dudes can play all over the line. Center, guard, I think even Spencer Anderson could play tackle. So for Kendrick Green, his best chance of making the roster may actually be at fullback. It really might be. And I'd be for it. I think it would be great entertainment for the rest of this offseason and summer to look out for. The Kendrick Green versus Monty Pottenbaum fullback competition. Who's in for it? I definitely am. But that is it for this edition of Big Deke News on a Wednesday. Stay chilling. Let me know what you guys think of the topics discussed down below in the comments. And peace.